All right. Looks like we're live. Looks like everything's working. I think, Mike, everything looks good. So we'll get the disclaimers out of the way like normal. We'll jump into it. We got one or two chats coming through right now, so I'll have something to respond to. This is a weekly live broadcast pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I am, so you can come in here. You can ask questions. Maybe try to get some answers to that I haven't been responding to or something. You can get in here and ask the questions. Uh, I don't have a topic planned out. I do my best to just respond to all the chat that's coming in during the live broadcast itself, unless you're talking to each other, which is okay. So I let the chat kind of drive how the conversation's going to go. So we talk about all kinds of things here. You can bring up any topic you want to bring up, whether it's quail, whether it's gardening, whether it's politics or religion. It doesn't matter to me as long as we be respectful. That's all I ask. We can have differences of opinions. We can still be friends. Don't start cussing at anybody. Keep it family friendly. Don't start calling anybody names or being hateful or rude or any of those kinds of things. Uh, we'll get along just fine. That's all I ask, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So let's jump into it. We got Chester Hickman here saying good evening to everyone. You've been here for a while. I saw that chat come through a little bit earlier. Good evening to you, Chester. Thanks for joining us tonight. Don's here, says runs to get a drink of ice water. Be right back. Well, I've got my trusty soda here with me. I'm a soda pop junkie. You guys probably already know that. So I'll take a sip of that while we're waiting on some more chat to come through. Let's see what else we got. That's it so far. Nobody's talkative today, huh? Wait for it's the time where I never have anything planned out, and I probably should. I always say that, but I never do plan anything out. It's been kind of busy at work lately, and I've been swamped during the day, so I haven't had time to even think about much of anything but work. There's Andy Dundas says, hey, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Well, I'm doing pretty well. Hopefully you are too. Everybody's quiet today. Not a whole lot going on. Dewdrop says, good evening from Western New York. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate that. And it's going to be one of those days, isn't it, where we're just waiting on things to come through. Very quiet out there. It says we got 17 people in here. Nobody's talkative today. Hope everybody's doing okay. Oh, I got something popping up in front of my screen. There we go. Got rid of it. Well, there we go. Chester came back with something finally. So he says, how are the baby bunnies doing? They're doing great. They're pretty well ready to process now, size-wise. I did put an ad out on Craigslist to offer to sell them like I always do. I'm pretty much just, whenever my rabbits are born, I put them out for sale. If they sell, great. If not, then they get processed and we, put them in the freezer. So it's about time to do that. They're plenty big enough. I should have done it last weekend when it was cooler. It's going to warm back up. It's going to be hot again this weekend. So we're, I don't know. I may get it done this weekend. It may be the next weekend. I do not know. Maureen says, good evening, everyone from NS Canada. What does NS stand for? I'm not real sure. Is that Nova Scotia? Sergio Castro's got just waving hands. So waving hands. Two of them waving hands. That's it. Nova Scotia, Maureen. Okay, good. I wondered about that. I thought it might be Nova Scotia, but my geography, especially in Canada, is not all that great. So sometimes I lose. I don't know what those abbreviations always are, especially when they're in foreign countries. Oh, baby. Oh, that came up, snuck up on me. Dawn says, bunny question on feeding feeders. I have 5-inch J feeders on each cage. The 3-month-old is inhaling feed. At what age do you cut them back and into what? With a J feeder, just put a cup in each day. Okay, so you've got a 3 to 4 month old baby. Yeah, usually right around 12 weeks or so, just a little bit after that, is when I start cutting them back a little bit. Feeding them about as much as they'll clean up within about 24 hours, usually somewhere around a cup. If they just act like they're starving whenever I go out to feed them, then I give them just a little bit more. If they if there's still pellets left behind when I go out to feed the next day, I give them a little bit less. But that's usually 12 to 14 weeks, somewhere right around in there. And then Don says, "Or should I put screw in stainless bowls to feed in?" I don't. Wait. Let's see. How with a J feeder? So I'm not sure what you're asking me. Like, should you continue? Are you using a J feeder now? So I'm guessing what you're saying, and you're wondering, should you switch it over to a bowl? I mean, you don't need to necessarily. I use J feeders for all my rabbits all the time. I don't see any reason to switch over to a bowl. If you want to do it, go ahead and put in a bowl. But it's kind of up to you how you want to do that, really. Hopefully I got that question answered. I'm not sure if I understood it. Dewdrop says, "I received 40 hatching eggs, put them in lockdown on the 6th, and hatched 33 quail by the 9th. Awesome. That sounds like a pretty good hatch rate. Congratulations. Well done." We got James here from McDonald, Tennessee. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Don says, "Do you just put 1 cup in a J feeder? I have them inside the cage, not cut in yet." Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So, yes, I put, it's about a cup. I don't know. It's probably like, the cup I use is about 8 ounces. You kind of figure out how much you need to feed them, every day whenever you go out to feed. Like I say, if there's food left over, cut back just a little bit. If they're just like, the first thing they're doing is going to the feeder, like, feed me, feed me, feed me, give just a little bit more, and you'll kind of get a figure on exactly how much you need to give. They will overeat if you give them too much food, though. So, if you go out to feed in the morning, the pellets are gone, but they're just kind of like moseying on over, like not in a big hurry or anything, you're feeding them about the right amount. So that's kind of how I do it. It's, if the J feeder inside the cage, I mean, if that's working for you, there's no reason to switch it out. You can do it however you want to, really. I don't know exactly how to tell you to do it differently. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm sorry. Good grief. Excuse me. I slept pretty well last night, but I haven't had any problems. Just all of a sudden, I can't quit yawning. Buck Reynolds says, "Hello, everyone." Hello to you too, Buck. Good to see you. Andy says, "I'm pretty stoked on my 62% hatch rate with Faro Jumbos. Love the satisfaction of breeding and raising my own quail." Yeah, 62% hatch rate's pretty good. I mean, that's nothing to complain about. So well done. And yeah, you're right. There is something satisfying about raising your own quail, rabbits, vegetables, all those kinds of things. So well done. All right, we got 22 people in here now. Some of you guys need to jump in and start chatting so we have something to talk about. Don says, "I do have my own eggs hatching as well. Day 10. Nice. Well, good luck with your hatch. Hopefully it goes well. I know that's probably pretty exciting, hatching your own eggs out, not relying on shipped eggs. And that's it. Everybody's super quiet today. Where's everybody? What's going on? Nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to put anything in the chat. Let's see. And Dawn says, "Breeding question." Thank you, Dawn, for trying to come up with something for me to respond to. Breeding question says, "If your doe is going to fight picking her up, is it going to be a real pain moving her to breed?" It can be. I mean, the does can be difficult to well, all rabbits in general can be difficult to pick up because they just don't like it. It freaks them out. They're not being aggressive. They're just kind of panicky because they don't know what's going on. When I go to pick up my does to breed, I grab the nape of their neck. I kind of fold them up with their feet sticking out this way. Put my hand on their bottom and kind of fold them up like that to move them, so I don't have to get kicked up and scratched up and like that. So if that makes sense, I don't know if it does. Hopefully it does. But I don't ever grab them like underneath and try to support their feet because they go to kicking. It's craziness. So that's how I kind of move them around. It's not too bad. Usually can do it pretty easily, but Yeah, it can be difficult sometimes. And then Don says, "Oh, I have questions in my mind." LOL. Well, good. That looks like it's a night for it. Nobody else wants to chat tonight, just you. So, not just you. I mean, there's a couple more. But James Nichols is here. Says, "Would it be best to wait till spring to start raising quail?" Honestly, you can do it. I mean, I don't know where you live, what climate you live in. Adult full-grown quail, they can handle incredibly cold temperatures, so they do perfectly fine in the winter. You can do it however you want to. One thing would be, I don't like to hatch out birds too much in the wintertime because it's just a pain to brood them out. I don't like brooding in the house. I want to brood them out in the shed. And when it's super cold outside, it's a real pain to try to keep the heat lamps going hot enough to keep them warm. So I just don't do it in the wintertime. But you can do it however you want to. The other thing would be if you do, get birds now, well, then as soon as spring hits, you'll be ready, as opposed to waiting until spring to get some eggs or birds or however you're going to do it and then waiting for them to get to where they start laying. So, you can do it either way you wanted to. You don't need very many if you're going to just keep them for breeders for the spring. A dozen hens and 3 or 4 males would do just fine. That'll give you enough eggs whenever spring comes that you can collect them up and start incubating and have quite a few in no time. Dawn says, I've been trying to tame them some, bringing them in the house, but it's not really working. Yeah, some rabbits tame up a little bit, some don't. It's just I've never really tried too hard with meat rabbits to get them all tamed up. Andrew says, my rabbit pellets have a lot of dust lately from 2 different feed stores. I notice that sometimes too. Some bags seem to have more dust in them than other bags. I don't know what there is with that. Hopefully it's not a permanent thing. It's never really that big of an issue. Don says, yes, I'm picking them up like you were saying, Chris. And you could do us a video on them. I've shown it in video plenty of times, but I don't think I've done a dedicated video on picking up my rabbits. So maybe I could do that. I could probably do it. Hey, there's Scrap 5000s here. Says, what's all? Greetings from New York City. Smash the like button. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We got 11 likes so far. James Nichols says Southeast Tennessee. Okay, so that's where you're at. Oh yeah, your winters probably aren't too harsh then. So yeah, there's no reason you necessarily have to wait till spring. I mean, you can start right now if you want to. It's up to you. And even if you had harsh winters, like I said, as long as you're not going into it with like 2-week-old quail or something, you should be fine. George says, hello to everyone. George Kaiser, good to see you. Dewdrop says, this was my first attempt at hatching eggs. They were lost in the mail for 4 days in 90-degree heat, so I was quite happy with the results. Yeah, heck, I'd be happy with the results even if they weren't lost in the mail or anything. Sounds like you got pretty good results out of it, honestly. Don says, I did get to check on the sex on 2 of the 3 rabbits. The older, bigger 3 to 4 month old was too rough, so I let her get by kicking me off and quit. Too rough, so I let her get by kicking me off and quit. Okay. I thought maybe I can tame her, but it either isn't working. I think there's more, but we'll have to wait because we got another comment. Yeah, so let's see. So yeah, sexing them at that age is, well, honestly, it shouldn't be that hard. You can usually tell the males pretty easily. But because they're a little more developed at that point, so there's things there that are not there on a female, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so you shouldn't have to handle them too much to really tell which ones are male, which ones are female. But yeah, I don't really bother trying to tame up my rabbits too much. I mean, they're used to me going to the cage. They're fine with me reaching in, petting them, that kind of stuff. That's as tame as I need them to be. I don't need them. And I'm not only moving them around whenever it comes time to breed, or if I need to move them out of the cage for some reason or another. And that's just for a minute or two. So I'm holding them. So it's not that big of a deal for me that they're super tamed up. So I don't know that I can give you great advice on how to do that, honestly. Spend a lot of time with them. That's all you can do, really. George Kaiser says, hi, Chris. Spring has finally arrived. We're starting our first quail incubation of the year. We bagged more than 200 last year, carried us over the winter. Awesome. Yeah, we're going into winter, so we're going into fall anyway. We still got a little time. Don says, I look at the dust on the rabbit feed as my bag of chips. Some are crushed. LOL. Yeah, that's pretty much true. Cindy Rapp says, good evening. Good evening to you. Don says, so either taming the rabbit is either not working at all or going to take months. Getting her flipped was too hard. I quit. Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, like I said, usually you can tell the males pretty easily. You don't even need to really pick them up. You can usually, I mean, if they're laying down on their side, you can probably tell if it's a male or not most of the time. Let's see. George says, Timu, is it Timu or Tamu? I never know how to pronounce that. Anyway, really competitive price quail kit. Not sure if you can access Timu in the U.S. We can. I've never ordered anything from them, but yes, we have access to it. My wife has ordered things from them, and some of the stuff is pretty good. Some of it's not so good. So I don't know how the quail cages are. I'm assuming they're probably okay. Don says, I don't want to be taming them, but felt it would be nice to be able to pick them up to go to breed. Yeah, I mean, if you kind of learn how to pick them up, just, kind of fold them on themselves, keep their feet pointed out like that. Usually I can get them from there to the other cage pretty quick, pretty easy. Invest a pair of those welder gloves that I showed off a couple of weeks ago from Harbor Freight. It's a life changer. I mean, it really makes a big difference. If they kick a little bit, they're not going to scratch you up. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, my freezer broke, so about 2 dozen pelts started to defrost, so we've been learning to tan them using egg yolks from our own chickens and quails. It's so much work. LOL. Does anyone else tan? I haven't tanned hides. I thought about doing it at one time, but I never did. So I can't give you a whole lot of advice on it. I know there's several different methods to tan. I've heard of using egg yolks before, but I don't really know that much about it. I know the biggest thing, you need to flesh them out real good. That's one of the things that you need to do. And then I don't know. Can't really give you a whole lot of advice about that. So unfortunately, maybe somebody else in here though does do tanning and they can speak to it a little bit more than I can, because it's just not my area of expertise. Excuse me. Don says, I found the Kevlar sleeves, and then hubby had new unused Kevlar gloves in the garage from 8 years ago. I am covered. They even tried biting me through them. I felt it. I think they were tasting me. Yeah, rabbits do seem to nibble just a little bit from time to time. Usually it's not, I mean, unless they're lunging at you, it's not really anything to worry about. And I've had rabbits that will do that. But most of the time, the rabbits, I always tell people, don't put your hands in their face like you would a dog to let them sniff you, because they test things with their mouth and they'll nibble, and not necessarily, I mean, they'll bite, not necessarily out of aggression. It's just what they do. So, yeah, that's pretty common. I've had them nip me once or twice. Usually it's not, I mean, as long as you don't just leave your hands sitting there right in their face, it's usually not a problem. They don't, come after me necessarily. I have had a rabbit that did. That rabbit didn't last very long. That rabbit was crazy. I mean, every time you go to the cage, she's just growling and snarling and jumping at the front of the cage, and she didn't last very long. I got rid of her. All right. How are we doing? We're like 20 minutes in already. Time flies, huh? Don says, I've never tried to bite or lunge, but the older doe will box me. Even moving her bowl, she ticked me off, and I had seen a video. I don't know. Andy, I was wondering when somebody was going to bring that up, Andy. I was thinking about it and thought I'd let you guys do it. But it says, anyone else as heartbroken as I am with the murder of Charlie Kirk? I absolutely am. That's just a senseless, anybody. I'm heartbroken, about anybody getting, killed or anything like that. But that one really kind of hit hard. I like Charlie Kirk quite a bit. I always thought he was one of the good ones. Yeah, and I hope they catch whoever did it very quickly. I know they will. I just hope they do very quickly. So we could talk more about that if you want to, but let me jump on to a couple other comments here. Don says, where you show them you are the boss by pushing down on their back where they can't move and tell them you're a boss. Well, yeah, you can do that definitely. And hopefully your rabbit learns pretty quick. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, how Hey, everyone, how's it going? It's going all right. Hopefully, you are too. Don says, I did to her about 3 times and she seems to have stopped. Okay, so that's what you saw in the video. You saw a video where somebody said, hold them down to exert your dominance, basically show them who's boss. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't see why that wouldn't work. Backyard Homesteader says, how often should I replace my jumbo brown roosters? You know, every couple of years. Honestly, you don't need to worry about it all that much. I usually about every year and a half or so will swap out my breeders with new breeders from my own hatching. So it's not necessarily new blood to the flock. It's just my own hatching, new roosters. And I bring in new blood every 4 or 5 years, something like that. I don't really pay much attention to it. Just every once in a while, get some new roosters and bring them in, or something like that. Don says, I am too sad over the assassination to be talking about it much. Ticked off. It overshadowed 9/11. Yeah, for sure. Well, 9/11 was a long time ago, and not that we've forgotten or anything like that, but it's kind of one of those things. This is more recent, and it was one of the. I mean, I was at work when I heard it, and I found it hard to believe at first. I thought this got to be a joke, right? It wasn't a joke, unfortunately, but Charlie Kirk was one. I mean, I watched a lot of Charlie Kirk's videos. I always thought, man, he was destined to be president, and that was it. He was heading that way. I don't even know if it was on his radar. I never heard him talk about it, but I would have voted for him in a heartbeat. He was just, I always appreciated how he went out to these campuses. He would debate these people. These people just get vile, ugly, nasty with him, and he always stayed respectful and calm and spoke facts and never demeaning, never hateful with anybody. He was just a good guy all the way around. Desert Homestead says, any tips on getting the rabbits out of the cage door? Out of the cage door, huh? I can't hold both arms in the door, and sometimes I have to grab the scruff and drag to the door. I kind of do the same thing a lot of the time. I'll grab from the back and kind of pull them towards the front and then pick them up. I try not to pick them up completely by the nape of the neck alone. I don't want to, I want to support them somewhat. But yeah, I mean, I just grab them, kind of pull them towards the front if they won't cooperate. It's a little, I mean, it's not necessarily the thing I really want to do, but it's the only way you can do it as far as I know. So Buck Reynolds says, looking 9 litter of rabbits this week. So you're looking, I don't know what that means. Looking 9 litters of rabbits this week. Are you going to get rabbits? Are you expecting 9 litters of rabbits? That's a whole lot, but I'm not sure what it means exactly. George says, we tried going coffee on our land. Harvest for the season was about 5 days supply for the morning. Don't bother unless growing on an industrial scale. Yeah. I don't even know I don't drink coffee, so I don't know that I would grow it. My wife does, so maybe. But yeah, it seems like you would have to, kind of the same thing with peas, honestly. I've grown peas before, and it just like you have to grow so many of them to really make it worth growing. I don't know that it's worth it. They're good, but it just doesn't seem to be worth it. So Don says to Desert Homestead, say, mine like to block the door with their back feet when I'm dragging them out. I have to drag, and I have big doors. Yeah, I kind of turn them around backwards, so I'm pulling them backwards basically towards me. Get the other hand up there to catch them and pick them up as soon as I get to them. So they're still in the cage when I pick them up, but that's kind of how I do it. Backyard Homesteader says, do rabbits produce a lot of meat? I mean, it depends on what you mean by a lot. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty significant amount. They're pretty. I mean, if you get a decent meat rabbit breed, they're incredibly efficient at conversion to meat. So much more so than like even beef. Every pound of food that goes in produces so many pounds of meat in the end. Rabbits are very efficient with that. And so a 5-pound rabbit, you're probably going to get somewhere around, I don't know, 3.5 pounds of meat, something like that. 3 pounds, maybe 3.5, take the bones away, and that's the meat you've got left over, I'm guessing. And that's after processing, all the insides too, of course. Um, Don says to George, that's interesting. I tried it once, tried growing coffee once with one plant. It wasn't worth it. Yeah, I can imagine. Uh, Scrap 5000 says to Desert Homestead, I think you need a bigger door. Maybe. Oh, Buck Reynolds says looking for 9 litters. So you're like actively looking to buy 9 litters of rabbits, I'm guessing is what you're saying. Don says, I agree, Chris. I found I could buy snow peas in the grocery store in a bag, frozen, cheaper, and get much more. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I grew peas, and they're good. I like peas quite a bit. Those, homegrown ones are really good, too. But, man, it was like, we didn't do an overabundance. We didn't do a huge amount, but we did, like a handful. I mean, it took up a decent amount of the garden. And it was like we got like a bowl, a big bowl of peas. That was it, So, Scrap 5000 says, backyard, yes, some breeds can weigh over 8 pounds at about 6 or 7 months. Yep. Don says, oh, I'll try that, Chris, turning them around your way. It would be so much easier, LOL. 2 of them have big, wide feet and toes, and they hook them in on the wire and block the door. All toes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I turn them, like when I grab them from the back, I kind of flop them over on their back, basically, and kind of drag them, pull them that way. So they're kind of on their back, so to speak. I try not to be too mean or aggressive, but be decisive. I just do it, I don't give them much time to think. Backyard Homesteader says, are meat rabbits going to be flighty like quail if they get out? Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if flighty is the word for it. I mean, they're rabbits, not birds. But I kind of what you're saying, I think, is, yeah, they get out, they're not going to come right back to you. No, they're going to be probably hard to catch. I mean, depends on how much time you spend with them, how tame you get them. But more than likely, they're not going to come back. You're going to have a hard time catching them. Oh, you know what? I bet I've got, I keep forgetting to turn this to all chat. It always comes on with top chat. Somebody said that. Scrap 5000, thank you. Yeah, he said, Chris, some of the messages are not appearing to you. I always forget that. I'm sorry if I missed some of your comments or chats coming in. You may have to ask them again because whenever I come in here, it's always set to top chat for some reason, so it doesn't necessarily show everything. And I always have to manually change it to live chat, and I forget to do that sometimes. George Kaiser says, yep, Don, we had a few bushes. It's a nice novelty. We literally grew 20 pea vines, Chris, and probably harvested 4 pounds over the season. You really need the space. It's comical for the average Joe. Yeah. Yeah, I would have to do, you said 20 pea vines and harvested 4 pounds. So, I mean, that seems like more than I got out of the vines I grew. I grew probably at least that many. But they did not, I didn't get that many peas out of them. Maybe it was a pound or 2 at the most, but it wasn't much. Desert Homestead says, I have some Dumore cages and some KW cages. All the cage doors are 12 by 12-ish. I would like bigger doors. Yeah, I don't blame you. That kind of makes sense. I don't really have too many problems with my doors. Like I said, I just reach in, grab them, pull them up towards the front, scoop them up, and go. Don says, I kid you not, my doors are 14 inches wide. My rabbits are young babies. They can spread those back legs and latch on with their back toes and block that door. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, that's why I pull them backwards, so they can't do that. Buck Reynolds says, going to have them out of my does. Okay, the litters you're having. Okay, gotcha. You're expecting 9 litters from your does. That's a lot of rabbits. Good luck. I hope they do well. Lone Wolf says, the assassination is disgusting. We must also remember people celebrate and mocked the death of Jesus as well. True. Those people, too, will face their fate when their time comes. If they don't repent, they will. Backyard Homesteader says, you have to plant a lot of them to make it worth it. Sugar snap peas. Yeah, absolutely. That's been my experience with them, too. Scrap 5000 says, two backyard. I found the makes getting makes wait. I found the males get affectionate as they get older. It can make it difficult emotionally to harvest them. Yeah. The males to me are always way easier to handle. They're way more friendly. Always seems like. And yes, you're right. I try not to get too attached to them. That especially the grow outs. My breeders is one thing, but the grow outs I try not to get too attached to. Don says, to the Desert Homestead, we made our cages. I still have one more grow out to make yet, but I have time. They are young rabbits still. Yeah, I made my first set of cages. The last time I was gonna build some more cages, and I went out and priced it, and it was like $10 more to buy four pre-made cages than it was to buy all the wire and stuff I needed to make four cages. And I was like, well, for $10, I would pay somebody to cut all that wire. So I bought the pre-made cages. Scrap 5000 says to Lone Wolf, agreed. Horrible people. Yes, they are. Dawn says, I think I ate half the peas outside picking them. Yeah, I know, me too. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, that assassination was definitely a deep state or Mossad operation. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think it was, I don't know, honestly. I don't know enough about it. Maybe I'm just a little naive or something, but I just kind of, I mean, it's not very hard for me to believe that somebody would, that could get on top of a roof there and whatever and take that shot. I don't know that could be. If it comes out that it is, I won't be terribly surprised, but I really don't. I mean, I don't have any reason to believe that right now. George says we have polytunnels, Chris, enhance crops yields and protects from a lot of common bugs and pests. Yeah, that would be nice to have, I guess. Don says I'll be pulling them backwards. Can't wait to try and surprise them by doing it. LOL. I swear they can sit there and planning on what to do to me every day. LOL. Yeah, they might. You're surprise them by pulling them all backwards, see how they react, huh? That's a great idea. Backyard Homesteader says, what's the minimum space requirement for meat rabbits? In general, I assume it is more than 1 to 2 square feet. So yeah, generally I like to give them, first of all, the cage needs to be tall enough where they can stand up on their hind legs inside there. You don't want a short cage. You need it tall enough. So that's going to be somewhere around like 24 inches or so. Tall. I go 36 by 30, so 36 by 30 square, and then 24 inches tall. I want to say 24. I think they're all 24 inches tall, maybe a little taller, but that sounds right. But 36 by 30, the square foot. So I don't know how many square feet that is. What is that like? I can't do the math in my head right offhand, but that's what I like to use for all my rabbits. Now that works pretty well for bucks and for does, and even does when they have litters, it's plenty of room. I've raised, like when I have rabbits that get up to 5 pounds by 8 weeks, I just leave them in the cage till 8 weeks and take them out and process them. It's not terribly overcrowded. It works well for them. But I don't like to go any smaller than that. Scrap 5000 says backyard to backyard. Yes, all rabbits, be it meat or pet ones, the male ones become affectionate, like to be pet, scratched, etc. Don says, my buck is almost tamed. I hope he makes a good breeder. He probably will. Backyard Homesteader says, when does molting season end for my jumbo brown? It varies a little bit. Usually when they molt, you're looking at just a couple of weeks, 2, maybe 3 weeks, something like that. As long as you've got a decent amount of protein in your feed, like, 20, over 24%-ish, somewhere around in there, they usually get out of the molt pretty quick. It's, a couple of weeks. They do seem to want to molt when you have the change in season, whether it's going into fall or going into spring for some reason. I don't know why. That's just when they want to do it, but that's how mine do it anyway. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, I was raising a broken red New Zealand doe for my main doe. She had 2 litters. First one didn't go good, but the second litter is going strong, and they're 4 weeks old. But unfortunately, the mom died Monday. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Now, 4 weeks old, they're probably going to be okay. It's a little early. to be weaning them. But if you don't have another doe to foster them or anything like that, you're probably okay just to let them just go ahead and get wean. Kind of forcing them to, I guess, but they'll probably do okay. Don says, to the backyard homesteader, the cage space depends on what size rabbits you get. Small, dwarf, or large, or giants. Mine are large, so the cages are 3x2 deep, 24 inches tall. We went with the size of the wire. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, my cages are slightly bigger, so they're 36 by 30. So 36 is a 3 foot, but 30 is a little over the 2 foot. So slightly bigger than that. And I'm assuming if you're doing meat rabbits, you're not going to be doing dwarfs. You're probably going to be doing like New Zealand white or Californians, or those are all large rabbits. So they really do need that space. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, the babies have been eating pellets so far. I just hope 4 weeks was enough time for them to have a healthy life. It's probably going to be okay. Don says, size of wire is no waste or extra cutting. 3 feet deep, I can't reach them. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that does make it a little trickier, doesn't it? Mine are, lengthwise they're 36 and they're 30 inches deep. So it's a little over 2 feet deep, not quite 3 feet deep. But yeah, if it was 3 feet deep, it would make it, more difficult for a lot of people to reach them. George Kaiser says, has food gone up where you guys are from? I reckon they've gone up about 60% in the last 3 to 4 years. It's good to grow your own veggie and protein. Oh yeah, we got hit pretty hard with inflation. Grocery prices went way up. Now they've come down a little bit, not a lot yet, but they're kind of starting to move in the right direction a little. We'll see. Emma Ball says, what do you do with the furs, Chris? Most of the time I just throw them out. They're not, the furs that I'm getting, especially like from the New Zealands, silver foxes are a little different. Their furs tend to be a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, fuller when they're younger. But the New Zealands, the New Zealand whites, when I process them, it's pretty young age. Their skins are pretty thin. The furs, they're not really good for clothing or anything like that. Maybe craft purposes. That's about it. So I just don't bother. I just throw them out. S.O. Swanson says 30 by 36 is 7.5 square foot. I know somebody would do it. I can't do that math in my head. I mean, I could if I wasn't also talking at the same time. It might take me a minute, but I could do it probably. Don says, we cut the walls as 36 piece front and back, the door and the roof in 2 more cuts. Pretty fast to build with less clips to have to deal with. Yeah, that's kind of how I do when I do my cages. And I've got a video on how I did them. It was one of the very first, in fact, I think it was the very first video I put out was how to build a rabbit cage, a wire rabbit cage. And yeah, I just cut the wire to length, the whole length of the outside of the cage, bend it over, clip it together on the side, and then I cut the bottom and the top out and put them on. So it's really not terribly difficult. I don't like cutting wire. It's a big, huge pain, but it's not terribly difficult to do. Backyard Homesteader says my feed's 24%. That should be fine. That's a good protein level. Scrap 5000 says, George, yes, everything has gone up in price. Human food, feed, utilities, everything. You can't thank the government and the Fed for printing trillions. Oh, you can thank the government and the Fed for printing trillions of dollars. Yeah, that's a big part of it, I'm sure. Don says, hubby's dementia got out of control when I was looking at one cage. He made 4 foot by 3 foot. We have not fixed it yet, but it will be some kind of grow out somehow. Okay, so he made a 4 foot by 3 foot rabbit cage, huh? That's pretty good size. But yeah, that may be difficult to get rabbits out of when it comes time, unless you got multiple doors on it or something. Backyard Homestead says, hardwire cloth or mesh is the only thing I've used to keep my quail safe. Rats and raccoons would prefer I use chicken wire, LOL. Chicken wire just doesn't last, in my opinion. Chicken wire is pretty much useless for that kind of purpose. For a cage, it's not predator resistant. They'll just go right through it. So, yeah, hardware cloth is what I use for my quail. For the rabbits, I use like galvanized welded wire. It's a bigger gauge because they're heavier. They need the bigger gauge wire. Backyard Homesteader says, I've been thinking of raising meat turkeys. Do you have any idea if this is allowed in a suburban neighborhood? You'd have to check with your town. I think I can have them here. I can't have toms. I can only have hens. I think that's the ordinance for our town. I'd have to look at it. You'd have to look at your specific city ordinances. I couldn't tell you what they are there. Don says, we use a grinder to cut the wire. I forgot the exact name of it. Yeah, that would probably be easier than hand cutting it with a pair of wire cutters. But that's what I do when I have to cut it. Don says that monster cage will either be made into 2 cages or he wants to cut it down. I told him he will not cut it down and we'll do 2 cages. Yeah, you could put just a wall kind of in between and have it in 2 cages. That would work. For sure. Don says North and South Dakota just slaughtered something like 10 or 100,000 turkeys for AI just in time for Thanksgiving to start this crap again. What now? Oh, avian influenza is what you're saying. 100,000 turkeys for avian influenza. That's crazy. Backyard Homesteader says, is 5 weeks too early to butcher my excess jumbo male chicks? It's not too early. I mean, I like to wait till they're like 7 to 8 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, get a little bit more growth out of them. But no, I mean, if they're happy with the size, there's no reason to, you don't have to wait. Just do it. Andy says, with the latest hatch, I'm using a heat plate with the quail as opposed to a heat lamp in the brooders. Seems to be working very well. I've actually never used a heat plate. I've got a couple, but I've never used them. I know that you do need to kind of keep them. You need to keep them low enough the birds can touch when they're under them, and that is one of the things that. And Backyard Homesteader says a heat plate's better, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they work just fine. The only problem with them is maybe if it's like a little on the colder side, that because it doesn't heat up the space. It's just the heat plate itself. So. I think that those are only rated to be used in like 60 degrees or above. So if it gets down below 60 degrees, they may not be super efficient with them, but I haven't used them really. I can't speak to that. I'm just going off of what I've been told. Don says, I had to butcher them all, or I have had to butcher them at that age. I try not to. 7 weeks with me is common, and I try to wait to 8 weeks, but they can get unruly. Yeah, well, they can. It doesn't really bother me too much. I just let them go and not let them go, like let them loose. I just let them do whatever they want to do for, the short time that they're going to be there. Brian Allen says, good evening from Alabama. Good evening to you too. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Backyard Homesteader says, unless money spent feeding for the extra time. That would be the key right there is, it saves you, saves some feed, saves some money. Really, honestly, once they hit about 7 weeks, really by 8 weeks at least, at that point, it takes a lot more feed for very little more gain. So you're going to get the most efficient feed conversion in the first 7 to 8 weeks. How are we doing on time here? We got 15 minutes left, roughly. 31 people here. And the chat has died down again. Very quiet. Backyard Homesteader says, is that Pepsi? It is. Yep, it's Pepsi. I'm a soda pop junkie. I'm not terribly picky. I tend to buy Pepsi. I just always do, but I'm not terribly picky, honestly. I like any caramel colored cola flavored beverage. Desert Homestead says, I had a 8x4 rabbit cage. I made it 2x4. Wait, I made it 2 at 4x4 feet. Works great for grow outs. 1 for boys, 1 for girls. 2 feet wide door so I can fit my head and shoulders in. Yeah, I imagine that works pretty well. Don says, I'm running out of questions, LOL. I saw a few come in and say hi and disappear. Yeah, I may have missed a few at the very beginning because All right, I shouldn't say probably halfway through before somebody reminded me I got to turn the live chat on and turn off the top chat only, so I get all the chats coming through. Rabbit Homesteading says, cheers. Hey, Chris. Hello to you. Backyard Homesteader says, nice. George says, my comment got blocked. LOL, you guys still going on with AI? At least that's tempered down here. We're still on the pick what you feel like you are bandwagon. Wait, oh. AI is avian influenza is what she's talking about. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. Yeah. Maureen says, I use a cozy coop heater for all my hatches. I have really good results with it. Nice. Backyard Homesteader says, same here. Good. Nice to know. Thank you. Dewdrop says, I also using a heat plate in a Dale's Quail brooder. Yeah, I have a Dale's Quail brooder. That's what I use, but I use heat lamps in it. I like them. They work pretty well. Andy Rabbits here says, I'm still here. I'm on a phone call too. Multitasking, huh? Don says, George Kaiser, it is Thanksgiving time coming up, so they're going to start avian influenza again, all new for this holiday season. Yeah, I think what you're implying is that right before the holidays, they got rid of all these turkeys because of avian influenza. Probably one of them tested positive or something. When one tests positive in a flock, they destroy the whole flock, the whole thing. And that, could be a huge flock. So I think what you're implying is that, that's going to cause turkey prices to go way up. And it might. So Antara says, hello, everyone from Douglas County, Oregon. I hope everyone is doing well. Well, we're doing well here. Hopefully you are too. Backyard Homesteader says, what uses more electricity, the incubator or the heating plate for my chicks? I honestly don't know. I have no idea. George Kaiser says, that's what I meant, Chris. I'll let you work out the pick what you are. The actual words get blocked. Yeah, I know what you're talking about there. Yeah, the in my opinion, the craziness with the, we have to be careful the way we say it or we get blocked, right? I know what you're talking about, though. Emma Ball says, have your bird processing processes look like from call to freezer? Oh, wait, what does your bird processing process look like from call to freezer? Okay, so what I typically do is I just breast them out. I don't bother going through the effort of, I have done it before. I've spatchcocked them, cut the spine out, pull everything out, keep the whole thing with the legs. Honestly, to me, the legs, there's just so little on them. It's just really not worth it. I know a lot of people say they really like them, but I mean, it's just a nibble is all it is, so I don't even bother. Most of the time I just split the breast. I don't even, gut them. I just split the skin on the breast, pop the breast out, and then I put them in the fridge and let them rest, like dry age, for usually about three days, somewhere around in there. Sometimes it goes a whole week because I get busy. Vacuum seal them and put them in the freezer. That's pretty much it. I've done videos on my processing technique that you can find, but I do believe you do need to let the meat rest before you either like cook it immediately. I mean, like immediately, or let it rest until rigor mortis leaves, because otherwise it'll be tough. And do the same thing with rabbits. They usually take about a week. I don't put them in water. I don't soak them I just dry age them. I put them in a bowl, put a paper towel over the top of them usually, so they're not just a bowl of raw, quail sitting out there in the fridge. Kind of cover them a little bit and let them just sit for 3 or 4 days until the rigor mortis is left, and then they go in the freezer. Backyard Homesteading says, do you prefer quail meat over turkey, Dawn? I like turkey quite a bit. I don't eat a lot of it, though. I mean, sometimes I'll get some turkey, but usually it's a holiday thing. So, and it's whole turkey. And I make a pretty good turkey. And I like Thanksgiving, Christmas, got to have turkey. That's I like it a lot. George Kaiser says, all low-cost electric options. I don't know. I must have missed something. I'm not sure if maybe I'm not getting all the chat still. I don't know what that's talking about exactly. Rabbit Homesteading says, to the Backyard Homesteader, a kilowatt meter thinks its name will tell you You plug that in, and whatever you want to measure, it will keep track of energy used. There you go. Oh, I did miss a comment. I see it now. Dawn said, I'm having quail for Thanksgiving. Don't need turkey until after Thanksgiving. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but me, I'm having turkey for Thanksgiving. I love turkey, roasted turkey at Thanksgiving. It's just I love it a lot. Backyard Homesteader says I have to get one of those meters. I'm guessing. Uh, Don says what? Eating quail for Thanksgiving? Oh yeah, you can hatch and raise some just in time to dispatch for Thanksgiving and Christmas too. Yeah, you could. Backyard Homesteader says, how long should I let my quail meat rest right after butchering? Well, like I said, 3 or 4 days in the fridge until rigor mortis leaves. That's really all you're looking for. So Interior says, I put them in ice water, changing water every day. It gets more of the blood out. Dry aging keeps more blood. Well, there's not really a lot of blood in the meat itself. I mean, you may be pulling some stuff out, but look up some stuff on dry aging versus wet aging. Dry aging is really most of the time a preferred method. I mean, you can do it however you want to. If you want to soak them in water, but I don't like waterlogged meat, so I prefer a dry age. Don says to Backyard Homesteader, I like turkey only because it is what I've had for 70 years, but the past year or two I did quail for the holiday, and it is special and so good. Yeah, well, we eat enough quail, I guess, that it's not really special. So that big roasted turkey, and plus all the stock I get from that turkey. Oh man, I love turkey stock too. Andy says my granddaughter said we got to eat white rabbits. Okay. Emma says, could you marinate while that resting out the rigor takes place? I don't think. I mean, like So and Tara says she puts them in ice water. I don't really like that method myself, but I don't think as far as like marinating them while they're resting, I don't think that's a good idea necessarily. I'm concerned that it would be over marinating them. It might. I don't know how they would freeze with that sitting in it for all that long. I think something on me for some. I don't know what it is. I got it off, whatever it was. I don't know that that's a good idea to try to do that. I would, if you're going to marinate, pull them out, marinate them, and I don't even know what you would marinate them in, but I don't marinate poultry. I brine it a lot of the times. I brine my turkeys. I brine chickens. I've never actually brined quail. I'm sure it would be good, but I don't know. Backyard Homesteader says, yeah, quail can be quite tasty if cooked to perfection. Yeah, not even perfection necessarily, just cooked well, Don says, so and Tara, what is dry aging? It sounds gross. I use water in the fridge. Dry aging just means instead of setting them in a bowl of water, you're setting them in a bowl with no water. That's it. It's just dry. That's all it is. Look up some different. You can look it up. Wet age versus dry age. A lot of those are going to have to do more with like steaks and beef and stuff like that, but it's the same process for whatever. George says, quail meat taste has grown on me. I like it. And most people I know do seem to like it. Don says, let's see, my oldest rabbit could be Christmas dinner, but I think I need her for a breeder too. Yeah, I can imagine. Ashley says, do you have any recipes for quail that you recommend? Oh my goodness. I've done some cooking videos in the past on several different ways to use quail. I like one of my favorite ways, honestly, is just kind of like a basic saute. I like to cut the meat off the breastbone so you just have meat and no bone to deal with. Dredge it in some flour real lightly, seasoned flour. Get a skillet going with a little bit of fat in it, whether that be butter, bacon grease, whatever kind of fat you like to use. Lightly brown that on every side, just get a little color to it is all. You're not looking at cooking it through. Remove that from the skillet. Throw in some like onions, mushrooms, whatever kind of vegetables you might like in there. Usually onions and mushrooms are pretty good. Throw that in there, get that sauteed down a little bit, make a little bit of a roux, thin it out, with some water or milk or something to make a gravy basically. Put those quail back in there, put a lid on it, let it cook till it's done. Serve that with some mashed potatoes or noodles or something like that. That's really good. That's probably one of my favorites, and it's pretty easy to do. So hopefully, I don't know if my description really made sense, but I mean, it's just a basic saute. You can do the same thing, like a chicken marsala. You can do that same kind of thing. Any of those kinds of things. It's a process, really. You can season it however you want to. Andy says, that's the beauty of being a born-again Christian. We have that blessed assurance that someday we will see Charlie Kirk again. Maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe we'll see him again. I honestly don't know. But yes, I know we will see God. We'll all be there together. So I don't know how that's going to work out exactly, but that's the good thing about being a Christian. And I know Charlie Kirk was a very strong Christian, so I know where he is now. And there is comfort in that. Andy Rabbit says, I meant white rabbits for Christmas. Oh, the white rabbits, because they're white for Christmas. That makes sense. Dawn says, to sow and tear, boy, am I glad I never heard of that and chose the normal way with water. That sounds like they would taste awful too. You talking about dry aging? Dry aging is actually the normal way. Water is not the normal way to, like, no butcher ages meat in water. It's not a normal thing at all to age in water. But that, again, you can do it if you want to. George Kaiser says, we have a new local specialty butcher our way. They sell 6 quail. They say 6 quail, 1 kilogram. Our quail are 40 to 50% larger and more organic looking, and they're expensive. It sounds like you need to get with them and see if they want to buy some of your quail. You might be able to make a little bit of money there. Don says, my oldest doe is white with blue eyes. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know that I've seen a white with blue eye rabbit. I've heard of them, but I've never seen it. All the ones I've ever had were white with red eyes, or pink, I guess. Don says, I love breast fillets and legs for fried. I love marinated and barbecue smoked. I have an Asian sweet dish that is awesome. Last crock pot done just right. Well, there you go. There's a couple of ways to do it, huh? Andy says, Don, she's not fully white, though. So Don says, to the Backyard Homesteader, no, that is the one that is not working out with taming. Okay. And it likes to box you. Okay, I'll let you guys talk a little bit. That's the one, the aggressive one. We're about out of time. We got like 2 minutes left. We got to get through this pretty quick. Andy Rabbit says, soaking in salt water became the most talked about over the last few years, I guess. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where that came from. Soaking in salt water, it just like popped up like a common thing. Like people always talk about like pulling the blood out of the meat and stuff like that. There's not that much blood in the meat to pull out. I mean, yeah, it will color your water a little bit, but you're not really pulling that much out. And honestly, that's not the normal way of doing it. The normal way is to dry age it. And you're just looking at, I mean, I'm not aging the meat in the sense of like you would age a steak for a long period of time. I'm just resting it basically to let the rigor mortis leave. All right, we're about out of time. How are we doing? Oh yeah, we got like 1 minute left. George Kaiser says, I'd rather stay under the radar, Chris. Particulars in this country keep my farming out of the public eye. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Let's see. So Rabbit Homesteading says, for fish, you run a rabbit down the spine to stop rigor mortis. Never heard of it with quail. You might want to give it a try. Look up Shinkai. Is that Giant? Hime? I don't know how to pronounce that. But yeah, I'll look that up. I've never heard of that at all. All right, guys. I got to wrap this one up. We're out of time. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. And should be back next week. Don't see any reason why not. We'll see you then. And till then, as always, God bless.